Zelda Pro 064 here, and in honor of Peanut Butter Gamer, happy Zelda month. I've done the research, I've gathered evidence, and now I'm ready to present to you my theory on where Breath of the Wild will be on the Zelda timeline. Now, this theory is a little crazy, might sound a little crazy, but stick with me, because I've got evidence from this. So, grab your sword and your shield, because we're about to venture through this theory. Okay, legit, this trailer was amazing, and all the footage that was shown during E3 was amazing. But where does this incredible game fit on the timeline? Well, with the help of Hyrule Historia and the footage that we have seen, I think I've figured it out. Now, I haven't watched any other theory videos. This is my personal theory. So if someone else has posted a similar theory first, I'm sorry. But not really, this is mine. Back off! LOL, JK, don't unsub, please, I love you all. So first, let's look at our current timeline. If my theory is correct, and all the evidence I found to support my theory is true, then Breath of the Wild will take place in the adult timeline era. As for where, well, this may surprise you, but I don't think Breath of the Wild is a prequel to Wind Waker, nor a sequel. No, Breath of the Wild splits the timeline once again. Didn't see that coming? Seem a bit crazy? Let me explain. I think the adult timeline will have two parts to it, Wind Waker starting off one section, and Breath of the Wild starting out the second section. Let's take a look at pages 122 and 123 of Hyrule Historia. These are the pages that explains what happens after Link has gone back to his own time, leaving adult Zelda and the king to run the kingdom by themselves. What eventually happens is Ganondorf returns, but no hero appeared to save the day, leaving no choice but for the whole world to become flooded. Thus, Wind Waker is born. So, where does Breath of the Wild split the timeline during these events? In one of the scenes shown at E3, Link is said to have been asleep for 100 years. Well, on page 122 of Hyrule Historia, it says, "The passage between eras was sealed, and the Triforce of Courage continued its slumber somewhere in the land." Wait. Continued its slumber? I don't know, but that's an oddly specific word to use for something that technically doesn't sleep. What makes sense is that the Triforce of Courage is referring to our Link in Breath of the Wild, and he is slumbering somewhere in the land. Okay, so that's not really enough evidence, right? Well, there's still a few more things I need to mention. As seen in the footage, the Koroks have made a return. They were first shown in the Wind Waker. This was actually one of the first reasons I thought of Breath of the Wild being in the adult timeline. The Koroks just aren't shown in any other timeline branch. Look at page 123 of Hyrule Historia. It says, "The gods chose which of the kingdom's subjects would ascend to the new land, telling them to escape to the tallest mountains." Now, this is referencing Wind Waker, but this is an important detail because it proves that before the flood even came, the Koroks were already inhabitants of Hyrule. Seeing them in Breath of the Wild shows where and how they lived before the flood hit, because they are not yet living on top of a mountain, like in the Wind Waker, but all across Hyrule. Just the Koroks alone show that Breath of the Wild takes place on the adult timeline and before the Wind Waker. Another piece of evidence is the pirate's charm from the Wind Waker. In Hyrule Historia, it says, "It was given by the king of Hyrule to his daughter, the princess. Members of the royal family can converse telepathically via the stone. It continues to be carefully handed down in the present era." Now, assuming the voice speaking to Link is in fact Zelda, it would make sense that she could telepathically speak to him through the charm, or possibly even other things, but we know that she has the ability to do so. Could this Zelda be the original owner of the charm? If this is the case, this also shows that Breath of the Wild would take place before Wind Waker. Now, for my biggest and final piece of evidence, Ganon. Let's watch this short scene that we have of Ganon, shall we?
"When the beast regains its true power, this world will face its end." Now then, you must hurry.
Did that scene look familiar at all? That's right. I believe this scene is what is depicted in the picture shown at the beginning of The Wind Waker. Where The Wind Waker is what happens when the hero doesn't appear, Breath of the Wild is what happens when the hero does appear. It all fits perfectly. The kingdom is shrouded in darkness as Ganon begins to rise again. The Koroks being there, the technology such as the charm that is passed down from the royal family, the Triforce of Courage slumbering, and the fact that Ganon is rising again is all evidence for my theory that Breath of the Wild splits the adult timeline into two, and it's the alternate story to The Wind Waker. So that was my theory on where Breath of the Wild will fit on the timeline. If you think differently, or you found something else that maybe supports or goes against my theory, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. And, happy Zelda month. Hi!